All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth podcast for February 6th, Thursday, 2025. Hope you're all doing well. Please hit that subscribe and like button and leave comments at the bottom. We're building this organically. We need your help. We're going to get there. It's just taking a little time, okay? I still got the training wheels on. I appreciate your patronage and I appreciate your patience because believe me, my mom could tell you, anybody who encounters me needs plenty of patience. That goes from my mom to super producer Stacy to anybody in my life. I am a handful. All right. I'm going to tell a little story today. And I live in Los Angeles. And I've always said that the big cities are about 5 years ahead of anywhere else in the country. And we've had a homeless problem for a long time. Unfortunately, now the rest of the country is starting to get it, and it's a terrible thing, and I'm so empathetic. But there was a time in my life where I was the hardcore Republican. Yeah, I know, adorable Jay, hardcore a-hole, right? I grew up in a Republican house. I was a Catholic schoolboy. I was an altar boy. I went to Catholic high school. You know, I was just a ruthless vato, right? Reagan guy, Bush one guy, couldn't stand Clinton, blah, blah, blah. Finally, I had the epiphany. Maybe it was undiagnosed CTE from my boxing days. I'm not sure. That's where the extensive facial damage comes from. Please. Nothing the plastic surgeon can't handle, I'm sure. And I had a best friend at the time. His name was Joe. We both went to Catholic high school together. I was much more religious than Joe. I went to church every week. Joe didn't. I don't know if Joe ever went to church. And we never talked religion. It never really came up. But in our 20s, every weekend, we would get beer and go out and hang out. That was our thing. That's what we do in Los Angeles. It was boring then, and it sounds even more boring now, but different times, right? Sights and wonders. So this one particular Friday evening, we're in my car, and we go to the liquor store. And we segregated our beer. I got my beer, he got his beer. We weren't one of those guys who said, "Oh, just go in and get a case," No. I need my Michelob. He would have his, Dos Equis or whatever he'd get. And I go in, procure my alcohol, and I head back out to the car, put it in the car, and I'm behind the driver's wheel. And as I'm heading out, a homeless guy hits me up. And I immediately say, no, I'm not going to give you any money. I'm not going to help you get a job. Just a total P-R-I-C-K, right? I mean, just total jerkhead, right? And some people would say I still have that quality. I'm never going to bring my mom on this podcast. So I sat in the car after I had turned down this gentleman, and I see Joe come out about 2 minutes later with his beer, and the gentleman approaches Joe. I see them have a conversation. I can't hear it because I'm inside the car. And I see Joe reach into his pants, hand him some money, and the guy, heads off. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the BBC specials where the cheetah's just laying there on the Serengeti and it literally sees the wounded gazelle like a quarter mile away, and you just know how this is all going to end up, right? I mean, this isn't going to end well. So Joe gets in the car, and man, I see some weak flesh. And I'm going to be a ball buster, right? I'm just going to beat him up. I'm going to break his head, and then I'm just going to beat him up some more. So I start in and, hey, Joe, you're giving that guy money. He's going to spend it on drugs, alcohol, prostitutes. Well, I'm not sure where you're going to get a prostitute for $2, but, it's LA. I guess anything's possible, right? And I start beating him up. I said, you're promoting that lifestyle? Like somebody's going to be homeless so they can get $2 from Joe at a liquor store on a Friday night. Yeah, right. Real deep thought there, right? And I just keep beating him up. And I do it for about 10 minutes. And then finally he turns to me and he says, "Are you done?" Now, anybody who listens to the podcast here knows I have an almost inexhaustible ability to talk, especially about myself, and especially about stuff that I think is effed up, which there's plenty. I got 4 more years of it, right? So I said, "Yeah, I'll put that X chromosome in me on hold for a second here, right?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm cool." And then he looks at me and he says, "You know, in the Bible, it says when Jesus approaches us, will we deny him?" And I'm like, wow. He just hit me with a Bible verse. Mother effer. And I looked at him. Never heard another Bible verse from him. Hadn't heard one before then. And ever since that day, every time I see a homeless person, I remember that verse and I give him money. I am telling you right now, there is a beach house on Maui that I could have paid for if I never had that conversation with Joe. You son of a gun. Oh my God. I could be living high on the hog. Damn you, Joe. Damn you to hell. All right. So let's get into the news. We got a Gaza update. Looks like a funny thing happened on the way to a resettlement in the Gaza Strip with the Palestinian people. It seems like a lot of the countries in the world didn't like that. Yeah, Netanyahu, man, he was giggling there at the press conference, but seems like Russia, China, and Germany, which is quite a consortium right there, were adamantly against it. And Saudi Arabia actually came out and said that's a non-starter. Now, public opinion is anywhere between 75 and 80% against new conflict zone engagement. I didn't even know that was a term, but I guess so. We're going to just bring that up for our boy Trump. And Netanyahu said he urges consideration of Trump's remarkable proposal. And this is the proposal, if you're a little late to the party here, of we're going to resettle 2 million Palestinians into the middle of the Egyptian desert. And just for a little background, this is where Moses wandered around for 40 years. You know, there's nobody wants to hang out there. Okay? So what I'm going to do on this segment is I'm going to play a clip from CNN, and then we're going to talk about it on the other side. Okay? Okay, hold on. Okay, just give me a second.
Days before the last presidential election, Donald Trump was the invited guest at the Great Commoner restaurant in Dearborn, Michigan. Albert Abbas says he extended that invitation, a decision he is now reflecting on given all that has happened in the last 24 hours.
Many in the community are at a loss for words. Last night was a very rough night for most of us.
Abbas is Arab American and one of a number of Democrats who voted for Trump. Abbas says he hoped Trump would do more than President Joe Biden did to help Palestinians suffering in Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
But after Trump said Palestinians should leave Gaza so it can be redeveloped, Abbas says not only does he feel betrayed, he's hearing from a number of people angered over his past support of Trump.
People were really, really frustrated, and I don't think there's anyone to blame. At the end of the day, as Arab Americans or Muslims, we really didn't have much of a choice.
Not a choice.
Dearborn, a Detroit suburb, is home to the largest Arab American population in the United States, a community which helped Trump carry the critical swing state. He won 42% of the vote in Dearborn versus Vice President Harris with 36% and Jill Stein with 18%. In 2020, Biden handily carried the city with 69%. Faye Nimmer voted for Trump in 2024 out of frustration over the previous administration's support of Israel. Now, she is troubled by the president's proposal to move Palestinians out of Gaza.
Troubled.
It's very concerning and it's infuriating.
Personal feelings, you're infuriated, but standing by your decision for now to have voted for Trump.
Correct.
And what would move that needle for you to say, you know what, I made a mistake?
Palestine is the red line for this community.
Nimmer says she suspects Trump is bluffing and is using his proposal as some sort of negotiating tactic. That's the same sentiment shared by Amar Zar.
First, this is clearly not going to happen, right?
And real estate broker Ali Alfarajala.
A lot of people are calling me and texting me saying, hey, how did your vote work out? How was that third party vote?
Both were so-called protest voters. Neither supported Trump or Harris. Are there any sort of second thoughts now about having supported a third-party candidate?
Absolutely not. And I'll still do it again and again and again.
I didn't vote for Trump. So, a protest vote? I don't know. I would say it was a targeted vote of conscience to say that the children of Gaza have to mean something. Their death has to mean something.
And while Arab Americans here were divided in the past, going forward, one point is uniting them: opposition to Trump's proposal to move Palestinians out of Gaza.
You know what? We just heard some of the biggest idiots in the world. At some point, I love how they're doubling down. Palestine's the red line. Yeah, okay. So all the times that Biden was breaking balls with Israel about getting humanitarian aid in, that wasn't enough. Jared Kushner had talked about this last year at a Harvard summit about making what great waterfront property Gaza was. What did you think was coming? It amazes me in the year 2025. Trump has told you all this stuff. And then when he enacts it, whether it's deportation, whether it's the Gaza thing, you don't believe it. That lady, I don't think he's telling the truth. I think he's negotiating. Who in the F is he negotiating with? This is unequivocally a land grab for the U.S. and for Israel. He is looking at this not as a president, not as a humanitarian, and not someone who's got an effing soul. He's looking at it as a real estate developer. This is Trump Tower 4 or whatever it is. Maybe they can blow up a Tesla there too. These people changed the election in Michigan. You heard it. 69% voted for Biden in 2020. Now they went to 42% for Trump. And then let's add on the 18% for Jill Stein. As the protest vote. Go ahead. Just piss it away. Come on, man. These people are they are realizing that he wasn't lying. Now, we're going to get into whether he can do this or not. At the end of the day, everything is on the table. If I would have told you 3 months ago he was talking about taking over Gaza, here's what I would have heard from the pro-Trump people. No, that's just Trump. That's just talk. And you know what? It might be. It might be a violation of every UN decree. It is a war crime on every level to take over land that is sovereignly owned by another people. Okay? But now we're talking about it. The whole myth of, he'll never go there. He's went there. He's talked about it. He's broke that fourth wall. And now it's on the table. Whether it happens or not, we're going to find out. But he's normalizing absurd and atrocious behavior. I mean, look at what that is. Reuters is reporting that yesterday, Marco Rubio, on his little tour of Central America to find more jails for deportees and American citizens, says that it is not a hostile takeover. Yeah, okay. So we're going to go take people who have been living there for generations. We're going to export them to another country, to another region, make them live there, but it's not a hostile takeover. Yeah, okay. Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, called it a historic achievement while saying that he hasn't committed to sending troops. Exactly how are we going to stabilize and dismantle dismantle, not demantle, I don't even know if that's a word, dismantle the unexploded bombs he talked about for so long yesterday. And then she said, now this is the classic one, that we're not going to pay for it. Just to give everybody a little refresher course on Trump 101, in 2016, he said Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Oh, nope. Final Jeopardy. Alex, no, he lied on that too. Yeah, okay. And finally, Carolyn Leavitt said that the Gazans would be temporarily located instead of Trump's statements of a permanent resettlement. Now, see, this is where they're trying to walk it back, but what they're really doing is just they want to get them off the land. Once they're off the land, you've got no recourse. It's over. You know, it's anytime you can move somebody from point A to point B, you don't have to let them back. Good luck. Yeah, they're going to set up a train, right? They're going to set up a train from Gaza to this place in the middle of the desert where Moses wandered for 40 years, and they're going to let him come back whenever they want. You know, probably got a cut rate fare too, right? Oh, my gosh. All right. Also in the news, Attorney General Pat Bundy orders review of the Trump prosecutions, you know, because they were so erroneous. I did look at 2 or 3 of the press releases and didn't seem to have any reviews of the Hunter Biden or Bob Menendez, these are prominent Democrats, of their prosecutions. Bob just went to jail for quite a while for being just a total scumbag. And yeah, I'm going to call that Democrat. He is a sleazy dude, man. That dude was corrupt on corrupt on corrupt. And look, I'm a Democrat. I'm a liberal. That dude was just sleazy. That dude was just a gangster, man, in the 3-piece suit. She is now going to focus on sanctuary cities and withholding federal funds for people who don't enforce federal mandates. Okay. And, you know, really, this is where the Democrats need to get nasty. They need to get mean, is because when Obamacare passed, there was quite a number of southern states that wouldn't implement Obamacare, would not implement expansion of Medicaid and Medicare. You know, so, and there is a number of states, Texas included, who last year, after the Uvalde situation, well, 2 years ago now, sorry, apologies, 2 years ago after Uvalde and bipartisan gun safety was passed, Texas still hasn't implemented it. They've locked it up in the courts. So maybe, you know, when this all comes to pass, if the Democrats said, you know what, Texas, we're not going to give you any funding because you didn't put that gun safety regulation in, or you didn't implement Obamacare that you've been fighting us in the courts, you know, okay. It's time for us to start playing dirty. I'm tired of being the cool guy who gets punched in the face and goes, yeah, it's okay, man, we're cool. Let me go buy you a beer. You know, it's just getting way, way old. Yahoo News is reporting that Trump has told his advisors to obliterate Iran if they assassinate him. All I can say is hopes and prayers. Hopes and prayers. I guess you had one shot at him and you missed. And like I'm really believing he got hit by a bullet. Like I'm believing that bullet didn't hit the teleprompter and a shard hit his ear. You know, for a guy who got hit in the ear, maybe anybody out there is in the medical profession, how does ear cartilage regrow? You know, he said his ear got shot off. How does ear cartilage regrow? I talked to my doctor and he said, well, we don't know how that would happen. That's just a no-go. The DOJ announced in November that, you know, this is funny, after they won the election, the Republicans, that the Iranians had a plot to kill Trump before the election and it had been thwarted by Secret Service and the FBI. Okay, let's say that happened. Let's say it really went down. What do we say about Trump pulling security details from John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, both lifelong Republicans, served in his cabinet, Anthony Fauci, and even yesterday, because, we can't stop pulling these security details, Mark Esper, who have all been threatened by Iran. So my question is when Trump is out of office, whenever that is he going to forego his security detail that he is allowed to have? He's got plenty of money. He doesn't need it. Let's hear it. Tom Cotton, Lindsey Graham, rather conservative Republicans. I don't know if the MAGAs still consider them Republicans or rhinos or, whatever we are. They have both been adamantly against Trump and his decisions to pull security details from Americans who served in cabinets and in prominent positions who have been threatened by the Iranian proxies. I guess we'll see what happens. That's the news for today. Please hit the subscribe and like button. Sorry about the glitch in the beginning, but and leave some comments. And like I always say, if they're terrible, I'll ignore them. If they're good, I'll say cool. All right. You have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.